Welcome to the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast with your hosts, Jack and Michelle Bosch. Together, let's uncover the secrets to building true wealth through real estate and living a purpose-driven life.
Welcome to the Forever Cash Podcast. I'm your host today, Michelle Bosch. Super excited to have here with us today, Bhavna Jhaveri or Jhaveri? How do I pronounce that?
Jhaveri was perfect.
Jhaveri. Okay, wonderful. Bhavna, thank you so much for being on the show here with me today. I have been looking forward, during the last 3 weeks, ever since we chatted, on private message on Facebook about being here together. And just for everyone that is tuning in, Bhavna is the founder and president of Note Country. This is a firm that specializes in residential, commercial, and land mortgage and note origination. She is also part of our Land Profit Generator coaching community. She has an extensive real estate background, over 20 years of experience in the real estate space. And all of this while having a husband, 2 children, and trying to juggle it all. So you are my freaking superhero, and I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for inviting me here.
Thank you so much for being with us. So Bhavna, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you grow up around money as a woman? What kind of money beliefs? And just tell us a little bit about yourself, like who Bhavna is.
Great. Once again, thank you, Michelle, for inviting me here. This is truly an honor and privilege. Now, I could start by telling you about my amazing husband and 2 children, 9 and 13 years old, or about my 20 years experience as a real estate investor, or my experience managing an extensive construction project for my Sikh temple here locally, or about my success with note investing and transactional funding. But I won't. I think it would be far more interesting to first talk about what motivates me, my passion, my purpose, and why I do what I do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Back in 1985, Steve Jobs was trying to hire John Scully, a man who brought PepsiCo to #1 in the cola wars. Jobs tried really hard to lure Scully away just to get rejected, until Steve Jobs asked him a game-changing question that got Scully to say yes. It's a question that has had a huge impact on my life. And that question was, do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Or do you want to come with me and change the world?
That's an iconic question, Bhavna. Yes, absolutely.
So briefly, my passion is to make a difference in the lives of orphan kids. I can give you a million reasons why you should consider getting involved, but let me share a few. I will also tell you a short story about this little girl named Ashwini, who was abandoned at birth and was found lying outside a police station in India. She was immediately handed over to a local orphanage in a city called Pune in India. So now there's a total of about 20 million orphan kids in India. That accounts for almost 4% of their entire child population. And these kids are raised in orphanages where they're exposed to abuse, neglect, exploitation, lack of love and care of parents. As you can understand, this trauma can be very long-lasting. A small percentage of these orphan kids do end up getting adopted by loving and caring families. However, majority of the kids who do end up getting adopted, they are either under 5 years old, or they're male children, because India is primarily a patriarchal society.
Yeah.
The remaining, so is
a lot of Latin America,
Exactly. Yeah. So the remaining kids, they end up living vulnerable lives, and they become victims of human trafficking, societal ridicule, and they suffer extreme behavioral and emotional problems. Now, why am I so passionate about supporting orphans? And how do I know so much about that? Well, my husband and I, we adopted Ashwini 6 years ago when she was almost 3 years old. So in December of 2015, we went to India to pick her up and bring her back home with us. Of course, we were naive, thinking, she'll be delighted to see us and she'll come running into our arms, jumping with joy, but just to find out the reality the hard way. As soon as we got to the orphanage, we were told that she hasn't come out of her room in the past 2 days, ever since she found out that a mom, a dad, and a brother are coming to pick her up.
Oh, bless her heart.
Yeah, she was then forced out of her room and brought to us. I still remember she was so scared. She was anxious, in a lot of pain, and she was crying profusely, not wanting to, of course, go with a bunch of complete strangers. Then they told us to, just pick her up and leave. And in my mind, that was so cruel. But the officials, they convinced us that this has worked really well in the past. A sudden detachment is good for the kids. So we just picked her up and we just left. Little did we know that our life will change forever from that day on. And it did. I've experienced the trauma, the distress and struggles in Ashwini's first few years with us, before she finally started to live a loving, trusting, and secured life with us. Many people will look at my career and think I'm a success. But I think of all those kids who were left behind, and I think of unrecognized success and courage. My legacy is to support orphan kids and bring meaning to their life.
That is beautiful, Bhavna. Oh my gosh, I would have never guessed that, one of your two children is adopted, and that you are so passionate about this. I'm so happy that you get to share this with us, and that I get to know you even better. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for listening. This experience has redefined my focus, my determination, my willpower, and my passion to succeed in life, both financially and philanthropically. So I can work towards my passion and give back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that once, certain of our needs have been met, of money, of time, of shelter, of food, the logical next step is of contribution, and of contribution in a very deep and meaningful way, and very close to your heart, because it's children, and especially one of them now is part of your family as well. Amazing. So I'm blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was listening to you, and I'm like, what a bright woman, and what an incredible heart, and an incredible amount of courage as well, to, because like you said, your daughter now came in with a lot of things that you had to juggle, and that, and you chose to do that, you know what I mean? And that for me is courage right there. 100% right there. On top of it, all the, amazingness that, like you said, in your professional life as well. And that sometimes, that doesn't complete us, like I said, because don't have that sense of contribution that I think really gives us purpose on a much more, if we look at, what are our goals in this lifetime to come, for many of us, we're looking for freedom of money, time, relationships. But at the end of the day, it's freedom of purpose, and working on what your purpose is on this earth is, you've basically stepped into that vision already. And that's amazing. I don't come across a whole lot of people, that I have here on the show that are already there. So I want to honor you, and thank you. Can I pivot a little bit into perhaps you telling us about, as a lady, so you came from India to the US.
Correct.
So you must be a first generation immigrant. You come here, and did you start it right away investing in real estate, or how was that transition?
So I was born in India, partially raised in India, and then we immigrated to Canada, to Vancouver, British Columbia. And I was pretty much raised by a single mom. And my mom was a school teacher. We had a very simple life.
Yeah.
And I put myself through full-time school by working part-time. And I learned money management from my mother. She taught me how to live a very effective and efficient life with less. So that has been a life skill that has been with me ever since I was growing up. And I feel it has laid the foundation of who I have become today.
Yeah.
Definitely all credit to her on that. So yeah,
I was also raised by a single mom, so I can totally relate to you.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes. So, so then you immigrated into Canada, and then how do you end up in the US now?
Then I
want to know all about you. I'm just very nosy.
So I met my husband when I was in Canada, and he was in Portland, Oregon. So we started dating. We dated for a couple of years, and we did back and forth, and then we got married, and that's how I moved to the US. Okay. And it has been 17 years now.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And right away you decided that, real estate was an industry that was of interest to you.
Not at all. So there's an interesting story there as well. So I have my undergraduate in software engineering. And as soon as I got married, I had an interview lined up with Nike in Portland, Oregon. That's where they're headquartered. Yeah. I got selected in the top 3, and I was super excited. And I was very sure I'm going to get that position. Got a call next day saying that the other person had a tad bit more experience than I did, and they selected the other person. I'm not sure what happened inside of me, and I decided I'm not going to work for anybody from that day on. And I did a self-study, a self-immersed course in real estate, and I joined the local RIA group. I pretty much networked with every single real estate professional in that group for the next 6 months. And I did my first fix and flip after 6 months, made $30,000 in profits. Never looked back.
Oh wow, that is amazing! What an amazing story. Now, how do you find us with land flipping? How do you go there to land? I can start to see a little bit of the transition, there, because even though it's like 30K and that's amazing, but then you find land, and what attracts you towards land flipping and towards the LPG community?
Yeah, so this was 20 years ago. Yeah. And so I've done anything you can think of in real estate. I've done fix and flips, to condo conversions by acquiring multifamily units, to retrofitting burnt down homes, to restoring historic buildings such as churches and schools and converting them into condominiums, to managing rental portfolios, and so on and so forth. Then 13 years ago, when I got pregnant with our first child, I decided to quit going to construction sites, to quit being around dust and debris. And that's when I transitioned into note investing, and I founded Note Country. And then after the real estate bust, a few years, the note industry was great. But then just a few years earlier, the secondary note market became a little dry. Yeah. There was a high demand and not as much supply. So I was thinking about why not originate my own notes? And that's when I stumbled upon the LPG program and how you guys had a proven method of success, where you can learn so much about land, and at the same time you can sell land by seller financing. So I decided to give it a shot, and I'm so glad I did. And that's how I've been with LPG, and I think I'm going to continue to be here for a while.
That is amazing. And I just want, to let everyone know, right before we started here, our chat, I know you mentioned you had already, during your 12 months of our, Land Profit Masters coaching program, you did 10 deals while, doing this part-time, because you're doing other things in the real estate space, resulting in $80,000 in profits. And you told me how many more deals you said you had under contract right now for 2022?
I have 12 under contract as we speak, and a few more in negotiations.
And those are on track to profit 100 to 120,000. So if I was to take 2021, because you started, the incubator, the 12-month coaching program in January till January of this year, that was 80 plus on track right now with what you have. You're looking at maybe close a little bit 180 or almost $200,000 basically in profits just from land, hard cash in the bank. And now, why, in spite of such an amazing background as and being a seasoned investor, do you decide to join us in coaching? I because there's people that always ask me, I already have this this kind of background, and I'm like, well, I have so many seasoned investors within our masters community that have had a real estate background in the past, but joined coaching. What was your reason for joining coaching?
I always feel no matter how much experience you have, there's always room for improvement. And I always like to learn from others' mistakes. And that's what I've learned in my 20 years of experience as an investor. There's so many people who have this niche, and then you have to learn from them to get to somewhere in a quicker time frame. Yeah. So that's why I decided to be a part of the coaching program as opposed to learning all the bells and whistles myself. Yeah. And that paid.
That makes sense, especially because you have 2 kiddos also at home, a husband, and another, and a bunch of, it seems like a bunch of projects, in the air, also within the real estate space. Now, how was it working with your coach, that experience of having your master coach, your accountability partner, and in general, what can you tell to someone that is hearing about us for the very first time about the community? Because I want to then go on and talk a little bit about what you've done in the transactional funding space, but just in general, how was your experience working inside of our community, our coaching community?
It was absolutely fabulous. I had an amazing coach, Aaron William, and he was so well versed in the entire process, and he had his superpowers, and I took full advantage of everything that he had to teach. I had so many calls with him, so many back and forth messages. I'm sure I ate his head at one point, but he was still very, very pleasant and always ready to help me, and I had a really good experience, and I would recommend this to anyone I would speak with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your kind words, Bhavna. That for someone that has had the experience that you have, to have you say that, and I'm sure Aaron will hear about it as well. I mean, we are super ecstatic, and for anyone listening, if you're interested in shortening your learning curve in the land investing space, we are always looking for amazing superhumans, business athletes, like I like to call them, like Bhavna, that are willing to put in the work, because it does take work, it does take commitment and diligence. And if you feel that you're ready to make a difference in the finances of your family and see real money in the bank in a relatively short period of time, go to landcoaching.com, www.landcoaching.com, and set up a call and see if, we're a fit. Bhavna thought we were a fit. and that's what happened. Now, I want to continue talking about, so you come into the coaching program, you do your own deals. Basically, you're originating your own land notes, in some cases. And in other cases, you're flipping for quick cash, and you have your $80,000 in profits for cash, but you're also a note buyer, and you're also providing transactional funding. So I know you had mentioned, from just notes that you had purchased inside of the Land Profit Generator community. Tell us a little bit about the passive income that you've been able to create from that, and kind of like, how do you structure that? How do you go about, like, what are you looking for in a note? If somebody within our same community wanted to sell it to you, like, what would that note have to have? Like, what are your requirements or your money rules for buying them?
Sure. So I have purchased over 40 notes just within the LPG community within the last 6 months. And more than the financial reward that I realized by doing so, I was able to foster a lot of relationships, long-term relationships with so many LPG members. And I think that was extremely rewarding to me. And a lot of people are coming back to me for repeat business. And I can't tell you how rewarding that feels.
Yeah. And especially because now that, if they're inside of this community, the importance of knowing that who you're dealing with, shares your same values, and you know what I mean, and is operating at a higher level. I mean, the confidence and trust that comes with that, I find it, priceless when a student or even one of the coaches says, hey, Michelle, do you guys want to partner with us? Or do you want to, are you looking to buy a note, with this parameters? Because, we know they have been trained in our method, number one, and we know the values at which they're operating. So I can totally see that. I was blown away when you mentioned it, but I'm like, yeah, I can totally see this. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. You nailed it. I feel the same way. And in terms of note buying criteria, I will not look at any landlocked parcels to purchase notes on. The principal balance has to be 5,000 or more. For a principal balance between 5,000 and 20,000, I do require a minimum of 20% down from the borrower. And for a principal balance between 20,000 and up, I would at least look for 15% down. 20% is ideal, but at least 15% down. And the total loan to value, I like to stay within the 50 to 60% range. I do, however, want to emphasize that this is just a general criteria and it varies on a note by note basis. What I have offered to other LPG members in the past 6 months is before they get anything signed from their borrower, they can run the terms by me. I can tell them how much I will offer to them. Then they can see if the profit potential is what they were looking for. And if they like what they see, then they can go ahead and execute the paperwork. And I purchase the note from them at closing. So this is a service I have offered to the LPG members.
That is amazing. So I'm very excited to have you be part of that community. And now, are you selling your notes, your land notes? What are you doing with your land notes? Are you selling them? Tell me about it.
In terms of notes, I am a big hoarder. So I like to collect my notes. I keep them in my portfolio, and I've done that for the past 13 years. I've rarely ever sold a note. And another reason for that is Note Country, in spite of just, it started with investing in residential real estate backed notes and also lending funds on other residential real estate projects. But recently, Note Country is also managing a big investment fund that has been an extensive source of funding for all these investments.
That's amazing. Now, how much in passive income have you been able to create just from the note buying?
From the LPG group, the passive income has been over 10,000 a month.
That is amazing. Now, you also do, transactional funding, which is probably, what you were referring to right there towards the end. And can you explain to somebody that has never heard about transactional funding, what transactional funding is? I know that during our master classes, we go extensively, and even during our live events, of which actually we're having one coming up real soon here, February 25th through the 27th. But I can let you guys know later on. But can you explain a little bit what transactional funding is, and in what circumstance would transactional come into play? We, as most of the listeners know, or if you're a new listener here, we can go ahead and put a piece of land under contract. And while we have that piece of land under contract and we have one escrow going between you and your seller, we also have the opportunity to market that contract in parallel and do what we like to call a double close and basically sell on that property. But at what point in this double close transaction, Bhavna, do you come in with transactional funding, just to educate our audience if someone is not familiar with it?
Yes. So I would just like to start by giving everyone a little bit of a background on double closing, which was very, very common not too long ago. So in a double closing in the A to B transaction, investor B has a contract, like you mentioned, with seller A, and then they put that contract with a closing agent. Then investor B goes in the B2C transaction where they have another contract with the end buyer C, hopefully for a higher price. And then they will also keep that contract with the closing company. Now, in a double closing, what used to happen was at the same time, the funds from C would go towards A to B closing. That would close first, and simultaneously, the B to C will close also.
Yeah.
But after the real estate bubble busted, things have changed. The jurisdictions have become more strict, and double closing.
There's certain places or title
Correct.
companies or states where that is just not, it's not looked upon well, and I think that comes from the banking industry as well, regulating this. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So many jurisdictions have more stringent rules around this now, and they want the investor to bring their own funds to close the A to B transaction before they can do the B to C. So that's where I come in. A lot of investors who don't want to use their funds or do not have availability of funds, I would come in and I would fund the entire purchase amount plus all the closing costs and facilitate the A to B closing, so that in the B2C closing, when the C brings in the funds to close the deal, then the title company will pay the transactional funder their fees, and the remaining profits will go to investor B. That's how the transactional funding deal is executed.
Yeah.
For transactional funding, the fees are around 3 to 5% of the total funding amount. Usually transactional funding is only for 1 to 3 days. If it goes over 3 days, there is a daily fee associated with it, which again varies on a deal-to-deal basis. I also do joint
and you
ventures.
usually probably like the buyer's funds to be in escrow already, the end buyer's funds.
That is one of the requirements. Thank you for mentioning that in the transactional funding. For deals that, if people are foreseeing that their deals might go longer, maybe 2 weeks to 4 weeks or a little bit longer, I also am open to joint ventures in those instances. Again, these are generic rules, and I do want to emphasize there would be deal by deal specific rules and certain fees based on the length of the deal, the type of the deal, amount of the money in the deal. So we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. Now, how do you, if there was somebody listening here, what are 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give them if they're a beginning investor and they wanted to get into, for example, land investing? What would be, a woman starting out or a gentleman that might be listening, what would you say to them?
The 2 pieces of advice would be definitely have a mentor.
Yeah.
You want to learn from somebody who has walked the path. And second, do not get stuck in analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis. Do not get stuck in that. Just go ahead and do it. Learn from experience. That's the best teacher. But have a mentor and learn from experience at the same time. So just do it.
Absolutely. Now, as far as you being able to juggle, your endeavors, which we started with your nonprofit, with having a home, with your family, with 2 children. What ages are your children?
9 and 13.
9 and 13. And, you're having your transactional funding happening, your note buying, your land flips, probably your rental portfolio, from all your income producing properties from the last 20 something years of being in real estate. How do you cultivate ease, presence, flow, and plus all the craziness that is happening around the world? Like, what do you do to step into a state of, I would say, of ease and grace on an everyday basis?
That's such a great question, because it will bring everything together. All the pieces of the puzzle will come together. So, there's a few things that I've practiced very diligently over the past many years, and I would like to share some of them with you. First is I root myself in truth during challenging times. Yeah. I am a very strong believer of following my intuition and trusting my values and beliefs. And it has really helped me think outside the box and come up with creative solutions for any obstacles that come my way. And then second, I like to serve others selflessly. I'm a very active volunteer at our Sikh temple, which is an international spiritual organization open to all faiths and promotes inner purity and positivity. I have been managing an extensive construction project for them I just finished phase 1 last year, and we will be starting phase 2 very soon. I'm also a financial advisor for them for their endowment fund as well.
Oh my God, Bhavna, you are just like a treasure of surprises. That's amazing. That's amazing to have, that they have found somebody like you to, to really help them, not just maintain, but ideally grow that endowment, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mutual feeling because, what I get from them spiritually is just priceless.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit that I am able to give back to them. Also, I'm a part of the Rotary International Club. I sit on their board and I head their International Service Committee. And we are committed to doing projects in Honduras, Trinidad, India, Japan, and many other areas as and when need comes up. So I'm very blessed to be able to be a part of that as well. Third, I like to surround myself with positive people who want to better themselves as opposed to indulging in other people's shortcomings.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great feeling to have that positive vibration around you.
Environment is so crucial to keeping your frequency, and sometimes, life happens and your frequency goes down. But if there's people that are vibrating, and just operating at a different level, that helps you rise up to them again, because we all have our moments of, just where we feel, oh my gosh, maybe a little defeated, maybe a little bit, beaten up, maybe, taken away by the current. And those people, that community around you can really help you pull your head up from the undercurrent sometimes. And
absolutely.
Absolutely. So
absolutely. Yes. I've also, perhaps you'll find this interesting as well. I practice patience and perseverance on a very regular basis. So I've been practicing meditation for the past 15 plus years. I've had the opportunity to try many different kinds of meditations. One of them being a 10-day meditation course where you don't speak for the entire duration of the course.
A silence retreat. Yeah.
Silence retreat. And you really hone into self-awareness and inner purity. I can't tell you how peaceful it is.
Who have you done those with? I usually do them with The Art of Living. I follow a gentleman by the name of Sri Ravi Shankar.
Okay, no, I have not tried that one yet. This one is called Vipassana meditation.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have numerous long-term courses. And then more recently, I've been practicing meditation and spiritual activities with my Sikh temple, and also focusing really hard on self-awareness, self-control, and inner purity. So that has been going really well. And then for the past 20 years, I've been practicing yoga, and it has been a pillar in creating a balance that is very much needed in one's life. Yeah. I also have yoga teaching certificate. However, but I have not used that professionally. It's mainly for my own personal development.
Yeah, the same here. Somebody was like, I can't believe you're 500-hour yoga certified. I'm like, yeah, I did do like over 100 hours of social service in order to, to meet the requirements. But after that, it was mainly for me. I went into that practice for the pure movement and physicality of it. And then I found myself with this incredible philosophy and this incredible way of life that, can help you live a much more artful life. Yeah. And like you said, has been my ground and my root in terms of allowing me to stay present and no matter what, comes my way, still being able to thrive, in spite of what's happening around us. I know, I'm sure since you're a long-term yogi as well, that it's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that makes a difference in the outcomes that you're looking out to have in your life. So, Bhavna, thank you so very much. I knew it. I followed my intuition. I didn't know the yogi part, but But yeah, we're kindred souls here for sure.
Yeah.
And I am so excited that you're part of the community here at Land Profit Generator inside of the Master's Coaching Program. And if somebody that is listening to this, wanted to, get a hold of you and it would be interested in, maybe you buying their note or doing transactional funding, how can someone, reach out to you?
Yeah, so there's 3 ways. You can either find me on Facebook. It's Bhavna Jhaveri. You can find me under that name. Or you can use my phone number, 503-504-6636, or my email, which is my first and last initial, BJ at Note Country, that's my company name, NOTE country.com.
Awesome. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to come and chat here with me. It was such a pleasure and an honor to, get to know you better. And it's excited to keep you here inside of the community. And I'm looking forward to celebrating you on your upcoming, deals. Because 100 to 120,000 in just from deals, that you have under contract in the first how many days? Or we're like at the time of this recording, this February 15th of 2022. So Q1 of this year had just started and you're basically out to the, finish line already. Now, anything else that you're excited about that you would like to share with us about 2022?
About 2022, besides business, I'm very excited because my son is getting his level 1 skiing instructor certificate. So he'll be the youngest entrepreneur in our family at the age of 13. Wow. And he's also testing for his 2nd degree black belt. So extremely proud of his accomplishments.
Proud mom. Yeah.
Proud mom. Yes. Yes. And I'm very, very much looking forward to working with more LPG members and fostering those relationships with more people.
Fun. Thank you so much, Bhavna. I'm excited also. We're going to be hosting you, I think, next week also in our monthly women's call inside of our land coaching group. So, or is it this week already?
It's actually this week on Thursday.
Yeah, it is this week. Yeah. so super excited about that as well. So thank you so very much. And for all of you listening, thank you so much for allowing Bhavna and myself to enter into your world, into your space. And tell you a little bit about, what she's doing, what we're doing. Like I said earlier, we do have an event coming up where it's 3 days of full immersion. You can go to landflippinglive.com and sign up. It's for a ridiculously cheap price of $97. You have 3 full days with not just Jack, myself, but, masters, our master coaches that are at the top of their game, telling you what's working in their business right now. And you have the opportunity to basically have access to them, ask questions, and we would love to have you there. So thank you so much. And on to the next one.